So, before we get started on the second part of this, I just wanted to note that I was listening to, I think, Dave Smith's podcast, Part of the Problem, and he, excuse me, he said that according to Cortez's office, there are supposedly, and I say supposedly, like doctored copies of the Green New Deal floating around that make it sound worse than it actually is. She claims. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past her just to be lying about that, but I figure we should preface with that just so that so that people who are listening are aware that we know about it and that what we're going after may in fact not be representative of the supposed final content, but we're not entirely sure either way.
Yeah, and more importantly, obviously we're doing it because we're here, so we're going to just go over it anyway, and we'll be able to compare when the final copy does come out and see how much actually was different or doctored.
I'm sure it will be a shining diamond of free market economics.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be completely different from what we're reading now.
Right.
Because someone went through a lot of trouble, apparently, to make what looks like a really, really legitimate resolution. I mean, there's nothing in here that's taken to any real extreme that makes me think that, well, apart from the fact of it's all taken to some crazy extreme, but there's nothing in here that doesn't look like anything they wouldn't say and hasn't been said before. So
yeah, I mean, there are a lot of places where these things have been, I assume, said by certain people. The question is whether they're willing to mainstream that or merely grumble about it in the background.
Yeah. So let me just check my sound levels here. I think I'm getting. I'm looking a bit low. Hang on a second. I'm gonna just adjust this here a bit.
All right.
See if that helps. No idea if it does. It should be good enough. Okay. So we left off on page 5.
At the very start of page 5, yes.
And let it be resolved that it is the sense of the House of Representatives, I didn't know they had any, that 1, it is the duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal.
Or a Green Leap Forward.
I mean, if that's the sense they have, that it's their duty to do that, and I don't think it would be all of their sense, but maybe, I don't know.
I would like to know where this duty comes from, because, I mean, like...
Clearly the Constitution.
Well, I was going to say that I actually looked at my pocket copy of the Constitution. I didn't see anything about, especially in Article 1, about the duty of the House of Representatives to create Green New Deals. But, that must be their motivation.
It probably. So we've got a sub-item here for this number 1.
Oh, they're all sub-items from here on out.
Yeah. So A, to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions through a fair and just transition for all communities and workers. There is so much that doesn't mean anything in that sentence. Okay, so let's just break it down. So achieve
the only thing that has any meaning in that sentence is net zero greenhouse gas emissions, and that's disastrous.
Yeah. And then they say through a fair. We don't know what that means. Like what is
no, actually let me amend my statement. Net zero greenhouse gas emissions is not disastrous if you allow for geoengineering, which I think they don't.
Well, given that you had to think about it, it means that they would have had to think about it. And I don't think thinking is their forte.
Well, clearly not. They're making a Green New Deal.
So a fair and just Now, I'm a bit confused as to why you would use both fair and just.
It's because fair means more and just means unjust.
Confusion cleared up.
There you go.
Okay, so the transition for all communities and workers. There's so much variation in the communities that you wouldn't be able to do anything fair or just. There would be imbalances everywhere. And the fact that you're transitioning all communities and workers, as if workers aren't part of communities. I don't know why those are separate. But
well, the fun thing here is that this is literally impossible, because unless they somehow manage to do all of this at exactly the same time, some workers benefit sooner than others benefit, and therefore it's important to note that time is indeed a object that has value in economics.
And there's this thing called depreciation too.
there's also depreciation, but it's kind of like how inflation works, right? The people that get the new money first spend it at the price levels that are determined by the system without that money, and then once it starts circulating, the price level goes up, and other people then get that money later on. Inflation benefits the people that get the money first, in the same way that a transition to net zero greenhouse gas emissions is either really good for the people that get it first or really bad for the people that get it first. It depends on how you want to run that.
Yeah, I mean, you could see a scenario where the first people, if nothing else, they
just get sent to gulags.
Well, no, they become accustomed to the changes quicker than the new people who have to struggle to keep up.
Well, it's not just that. They also let's assume that a pool of resources is set aside for this. They also get first dibs on that pool of resources. So that means that when this inevitably runs out of money and goes over what it's expected to cost, the people who are at the end of the fair and just transition get shot in the head, so to speak. But let's keep moving.
Yes. So part B, to create millions of good high-wage jobs and ensure prosperity and economic security for all people of the United States.
It's important to note that B is exclusive of A.
I think we can I think that's good enough for that one.
Yeah.
C, to invest in the infrastructure and industry of the United States to sustainably meet the challenges of the 21st century. What industry will there be?
What challenges are they talking about?
I don't know.
This is just painfully vague.
The alien
honestly.
invasions of the 21st century. There will be challenges, and we will.
I mean, it could be. I mean, I've played XCOM,
and
we all know that XCOM is true history.
Well, I mean, at some point we're all going to wish it was, because it's looking pretty bleak if this is what our government plans on doing.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, the aliens might get here and want to invade, and everyone will be just like, please invade us, take over.
Anything to get us away from this federal government.
Good God.
Part D. To secure for all people of the United States for generations to come: 1. Clean air and water. 2. Climate and community resiliency. 3. Healthy food. 4. Access to nature. And 5. A sustainable environment.
All right, so let me just address number 4 first and foremost, because the thing I think of immediately when I see access to nature is, I have a front door. I'm good.
No. I mean, access to nature means that you get to live in a teepee.
That's one of them.
I think they said access, but they mean exposure.
That's one of them swords that has two sides, both with edges.
Hi, I'm Damocles. What's your name?
We don't go by names anymore. We just have numbers, and that's how we determine who gets bread first.
And it's not by your number; it's by lottery. So
hand-milled bread that I made, that I wait in line for.
Well, you were not allowed to produce things for yourself. That's crazy. That's private sector talk right there.
Yeah. What am I, a trader? Class trader?
It's important to note that parts 1 and 2 and 3 are all produced by wealth in general. That is to say, once you're wealthy, you start to be able to spend resources to make sure that your air and water are clean. Once you're wealthy, you have higher resiliency. And of course, wealthy people are able to afford more healthy food. So, assuming that the economic effects of this are to impoverish everyone, how do they intend to complete 1, 2, and 3 while also impoverishing everyone?
Well, it's not that. See, they don't think that everyone will be impoverished by what they do, or at least they pretend they don't think that. I'm pretty sure that they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
some of them.
It's been said many times before, but easily foreseeable consequences are not unintended.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, who could have ever guessed what would happen if we took the farms away from the people who are good at farming? Right?
Yeah. And then number five, a sustainable environment. Well, I mean, it's going to be easy to sustain an environment in which you're sitting around a bunch of logs that you're not allowed to set on fire, eating bugs that you can't cook. I mean,
why are they putting a conservative point into here? Like, this seems very conservative. This sustainable environment thing, like,
yeah, that's a good point.
They're trying to make sure that everything stays static. I mean, what happens if the solar activity goes up and it gets hotter? I mean, what do we do about that? What happens if the solar activity goes down and it gets colder? I mean, do we have to fight the? Are we just railing against the? Are we just railing against the vicissitudes of the fact that there's a day-night cycle?
Oh, we shout our rage at the sun.
No, at Trump and the sun.
Yeah,
the Trump sun.
Even 100 years from now, when Trump is long dead, people will raise their arms to the heavens and shout at both Trump and the sun. So E, to promote justice and equity by stopping current, preventing future, and repairing historic oppression of indigenous communities, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural... Oh my god, this keeps going on and on. Rural communities. We already went over this one already.
Well, remember that they said that they were going to refer to this as frontline and vulnerable communities? They just failed to do that. Because they already made that reference earlier, so they're just gonna quote this whole paragraph at us every time they want to say it.
I see. Okay, yeah.
I hope
so
they don't actually do that. That would be even more incompetent than I expect.
So we addressed this in the last video. So let's just go on to number 2.
Sure.
The goals described in subparagraphs A through E of paragraph 1, referred to in this resolution as the Green New Deal goals. Do we have to go back? I don't even remember what those were.
No, it does. It's fine. Well, no, A through E is what we just did. So they're saying that this should all be done within 10 years.
It's a 10-year plan. Good God.
It's a 10-year plan, which is at least twice as bad as a 5-year plan because it means that we can't change our trajectory for a longer period of time.
Well, 10-year plans are the new plans. That was all of Bernie Sanders' plans during the 2016 election were 10-year plans, remember?
Oh, right. It's Moore's Law with plans.
Yeah.
They get longer the less sense people have about socialism.
So accomplished through a 10-year national mobilization. Basically, they're going to take people away from doing jobs that are productive to do
this.
Yeah. That will follow goals and projects, including building resiliency against climate change-related disasters. We don't know what those are.
Such as extreme weather, including by leveraging funding and providing investments for community-defined projects and strategies.
Yeah, you know what we should do?
What they're going to do is they're going to basically make these giant loans that aren't going to get repaid? Is that what they're saying? That's what leverage means, right?
It's kind of what they're saying, but at the very least, what I wish they were saying is that they were going to fill giant cannons with bundles of $100 bills and fire them at hurricanes.
That might actually work.
And be cheaper.
So B, repairing and upgrading the infrastructure in the United States, including
investments. Let's see, including leveraging funding and providing investments for community-defined projects and strategies. Well, what are they going to let?
My community-defined project and strategy is laissez-faire capitalism. They're not going to fund that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're only going to fund the things that they want to work.
All right,
let's move on. Part B, repairing and upgrading the infrastructure, including 1, eliminating pollution and greenhouse gas emissions as much as technologically feasible. 2, guaranteeing universal access to clean water. 3, reducing the risks posed by flooding and other climate impacts. And 4, ensuring that any infrastructure bill considered by Congress addresses climate change. So we got quite a doozy here.
Okay, so
much as technologically feasible that is kind of scary because that means that there's not going to be any consideration of opportunity costs.
Yeah, that could mean one of two things, and we know which one. It could mean that, well, we don't actually have the technology to do what they're proposing, or it could also mean, well, we need to fund into eternity.
It can't mean the first thing that you're talking about. It can't mean the relatively benign thing because it's a 10-year plan.
Good point.
If it were just a general plan, then I would agree with you that it could mean that they were going to move forward at a reasonable pace. But no, it's a 10-year plan.
Well, I mean, when I say it could mean, I mean if the people that were proposing this weren't psychotic.
Well, yeah.
So guaranteeing universal access to clean water, we've already discussed this. We have virtually universal access to clean water in this country.
But it's not universally universal. Like, I mean, think about what happened in Flint.
When the government-controlled water supplies were not kept up to their own standards?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have to say on that. By reducing the risks posed by flooding and other climate impacts.
You realize that that the only way to reduce the risks posed by flooding and climate impacts is to either A, not build in those places at all, or B, actually there's no other way.
Well, no, it's even better than that, because you can't do that, because for just flooding, you could say, okay, well, where can we force people to stay and not go according to where it's going to flood? But for the second part, where it says climate impacts, what does that mean? That basically means that you don't know where the climate is going to impact.
Right. So
Tornado Alley is a pretty wide swath of area.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like, what this really means is that they're going to, pay huge sums of money to people that voluntarily build houses in really bad places to build houses?
Maybe something like that, or
that's usually what that kind of thing
means.
Well,
we know it means spending a lot of money, it's always funny how these anti-capitalist proposals are so strongly in favor of spending lots and lots of money. You would think
it's because they don't understand how wealth works, having never generated any on their own.
Yeah, well, let's be fair. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was a bar hop. Wait, I mean bartender.
Bartender. But a bartender doesn't really generate wealth, as I would define wealth. Performs a service, yes. But
it's a productive capacity.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
I see your point.
It's not. She's not an entrepreneur.
No.
In any significant sense. Anyway, part 4 is just self-referential, so we don't need to worry about that. So let's move on to C. Meeting 100% of the power demand in the United States through clean, renewable, and zero-emission energy sources, including 1, dramatically expanding and upgrading existing renewable power sources, and 2, deploying new capacity.
Is dramatically a strong enough word in this context?
Impossibly, maybe? And I notice again that number 2 could just be folded into 1, because that's what it means.
Yeah. So 100% of the power demand. How much is the power demand? Like, if the amount of power available keeps going up, do you think that demand will stay the same, or demand will go up?
Well, I mean, demand can go up if the capacity to produce goes up. That's kind of the point of becoming wealthier, is that you gain the ability to do more things, right?
Yeah.
But the problem, of course, is that the word zero emission in there, because like wind is not zero emission unless you want 3-day blackouts at Christmas, right? Like the wind power, the noise spectrum of wind power is not white. Therefore, you don't simply gain a efficient and constant power supply by expanding capacity of wind power. You need to have something that goes along with it. Like for now, what goes along with wind power is gas turbines. Those aren't zero emission, which means that now wind power becomes really crappy.
And solar isn't clean, and it's only zero emission if we stop making any more solar panels right now and just use what we have. And therefore, it's also not renewable. So,
well, I mean, all those heavy metals. I mean, they just exist. I mean, so here's how naive these people are. The cost for a solar panel is X dollars per square foot. Therefore, if we simply demand a million square feet of solar panels, it'll just cost $1 million.
So, factors of production not being a factor, I guess.
No, they don't understand the structure of capital. I mean, that's definitely true.
It's just money. Throw money around, things will happen.
Well, that's actually what she was talking about. She was badly butchering the ideas behind modern monetary theory, or MMT, and she's saying, "Oh yeah, the government can just print as much money as it wants to do these things, and then they just tax a little bit to make sure that there's not too much inflation." And it's like, if the amount of money that you print is 3 times the amount of money that actually exists, you can't actually tax that back out.
I didn't even hear about her saying this.
Without impoverishing everyone in the world, right? Like, yeah, it's just dumb.
Oh, that's news to me. Was that recent?
Yeah, fairly recent.
I don't know. It hurts to follow this stuff sometimes, so I definitely don't keep on top of it.
I mean, like, MMT has its problems, but she's even misunderstanding the basics of MMT, like, to a terrifying degree. Like, it's like, holy crap, she has no idea what she's talking about. And if she is ever put in charge of anything significant, we will all die.
Maybe she's planning... Okay, so we print $500 trillion right now. Right now, no questions asked. And then we tax 2% of that. All problem solved. All right, so where are we at?
D. Building or upgrading to energy efficient, distributed, and smart power grids, and working to ensure affordable access to electricity. So there's a thing about this that I kind of don't believe, and that's the distributed and smart part, because this is a federal government initiative. How often does the federal government produce things that are distributed and smart?
Hang on.
I don't mean smart like intelligent. I mean distributed and smart in the sense that it's non-centralized. Like, the whole purpose of this is to centralize massive amounts of power in the federal government's hands. So why would Part D be like, oh, we're going to decentralize this? That's just going to go by the wayside, and they're going to call something centralized decentralized for the purposes of their policy.
Well, you did ask me a question, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just cut my hand off here so I have enough fingers to tell you how many times that they have done exactly that.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you
it's
after
all right.
the screaming.
There's universal health care now, so it should be fine.
Affordable access to electricity. I mean, if
you destroy the supply, I'm sure that the price goes down, right? That's how.
Well, if you can't buy it, you don't have to spend any money.
That's excellent. That's an excellent point. If it's unavailable, then it's affordable by definition because you can't get it.
All right. So E, upgrading all existing buildings in the United States and building new buildings too. I'm sorry, I can't even read this one without laughing. This is insane. This is
maximal
insanity.
Energy efficiency, water efficiency, safety, affordability, comfort, and durability, including through electrification. So I'm just going to kind of make note of something. So when I was in grad school, there was, I would take the bus to school, to the university most days, and there was always some guy who was kind of like, spouting some conspiracy theory or something or not. And he, I would kind of, just kind of listen to him and see what he was talking about, just to kind of see what's going on, see what he's thinking. And one of the things he mentioned was this thing called, I think he called it a CAFRA, C-A-F-R-A. And he was talking about how there's no actual government debt, because if you look at these CAFRA things, the government has, trillions and trillions of dollars to, already. And I looked up what these things were, and what a CAFRA is, to the best of my understanding, is it's just an accounting document that tabulates all of the existing assets and puts effectively market prices on them, and then sums it all up. And if you take all of the land that the government owns, and all of the buildings that the government owns, and all the furniture and computers and other assets that the government owns, and you pretend that you could sell all of those instantaneously on the market and get current market prices for all of that stuff, then yes, that number does turn out very high.
So again, this is a thing that nobody...
The point I'm making is that if you do the same thing with all of the housing and all of the buildings in America, the number that you get is probably in the hundreds of trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so what she's saying is that the government is going to spend hundreds of trillions of dollars within 10 years to rebuild all buildings in the United States in 10 years.
Well, I mean, there was a reason I was laughing. Not only that, though.
Like this is if you stop and think about this point for more than a second, you realize how much more insane than it kind of looks at first glance this point is.
I mean, this is the craziest thing.
Because the current government budget is $4 trillion a year.
Yeah.
And so if we're going to spend, let's say we're going to spend $400 trillion over the course of 10 years, that means that we're going to have to add $40 trillion to the government budget per year for the next 10 years.
It's only a factor of 10, and like she said, they can just print the money and maybe tax 2% of it, and that'll solve the inflation problem.
You can't tax the money that the government has printed. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't do anything.
Listen, I'm just trying to think through her narrow field of vision. It hurts. The whole thing, though. This is the craziest proposal.
Hold
because
on,
the center...
one more thing. One more thing is that all of these rebuildings are going to be done to maximize all these various efficiency things.
Yeah, that's
which
what I was
means
going to say.
That the price is going to be much larger than the 400 trillion or so that it actually is now.
I mean, you were talking about adding up the current value of these buildings. We're talking about improving them in this paragraph. So
significantly,
yeah,
as much as technologically feasible.
And water efficiency, safety, I mean, this is basically something that an architect looks at and salivates.
Do they soil themselves?
This is like the most massive jobs program for architects that I have ever seen.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Comfort and durability. I mean, how much money do you think you could get the government to give you if you just kept, moving the goalpost for what real comfort and durability is?
Well, remember, it's technologically feasible, so this is a never-ending goal.
Yeah. Okay, so
Part F?
moving on to F.
Yeah,
spurring massive growth in clean manufacturing in the United States and removing pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from manufacturing and industry as much as is technologically feasible, again, including by expanding renewable energy manufacturing and investing in existing manufacturing and industry. Well,
so I guess they're spinning solar panels out of, like, air and hope now, or what? Or
I guess so.
Do they not have to mine heavy metals for that?
Well, they've already spent most of this talking about destroying manufacturing and industry, and now they're saying they're going to invest in manufacturing and industry. So,
you know what's great is that they say that they're going to produce massive growth in manufacturing, and what does that mean for energy consumption? It means that it also has to massively grow. So yeah, that's great. We're going to both reduce supply and increase demand at the same time, and everything will be affordable.
Well, look, economics isn't a real science. I'm sure that they've got it all figured out in some magic wishy-washy way that you and I just can't possibly understand.
They have MMT predictions that work at like the 0.1% levels and totally break down at the 0.2% levels. And we're just going to make it 150,000%, and it'll work just fine.
Is there anything more to really say about that? I mean, they're
no, it's dumb on several levels, but not as bad as E. So
Yeah, no, E is the worst. E, I know. In fact, that's the game now. We're going to see if anything crops up in this resolution that is worse than E.
Well, let's check out G then.
Working
collaboratively. Go ahead.
Working collaboratively with farmers and ranchers in the United States, the starving ones, to eliminate pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from the agricultural sector as much as is technologically feasible, including 1, by supporting family farming.
What?
2, by investing in sustainable farming and land use practices that increase soil health and... I'll wait. 3, by building more sustainable food system and that ensures universal access to healthy food.
So, yeah.
2.
This sounds...
So 2 is the one that bothers me the most because...
No, that's H. Or you're talking about number 2.
Yeah, I'm jumping back. I'm talking about number 2, where it says investing in sustainable farmland use that practices. One is the one I was thinking of because don't they know how farming works? Do these people know what happens on a farm?
Do they know what economies of scale are?
Are we answering our own questions?
Maybe.
So. Supporting family farming. Most farms, the family usually works on the farm. I mean, not these days, not everyone, but it's still kind of a thing. And investing.
Well, no, but the point is that they're artificially choosing a winner in the market question of what is the appropriate size of a farm.
Yes, they're also doing that, and they're also saying that. Number 2 says investing in sustainable farming and land use practices that increase soil health. That's what farmers do already.
They kind of
have to.
If you own the land and you expect it to be productive for more than a couple of years, you have to do that already. She's never actually owned anything, has she?
She's never actually taken care of anything.
That's definitely true.
Let's put the country in her hands.
Yay.
By building a more sustainable food system, we're not starving in this country.
No, don't you know that 8% of children starve every day?
I mean, if you say so, but I'm pretty sure that report was using, this person only had 2 sandwiches today, so they were starving.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you know where people are starving? There's
every second 100 million American children are killed by bats. That's a little penny arcade reference there.
Let's see.
So, should we move on to H, or do we have anything else to do in G?
I feel like we're not talking enough about G, but on the same token, I don't know what else to say about it. It's kind of obvious that farmers keep their soil healthy whenever possible. And it's kind of obvious that, so they say supporting family farming in number one. So to be fair, they're not really talking about having families farming. They're talking about...
they're talking about subsidizing families who do farm.
So that, yes, that is a thing they can do. I would argue that that's not a useful thing to do, but...
No, like I said, they're choosing winners and losers in the question of economy of scale.
Yeah.
Which is not what you should do, because what you do by doing that is produce inefficiencies, not efficiencies.
And the sustainable food thing is it's insane, because the truth is, if our current food system stalled out for more than a week, most people in this country would starve.
Oh yeah, not starve, but they'd be. Nobody's going to starve in a week, but they would be very hungry.
Yeah,
like almost everything nowadays is manufactured or produced or grown or whatever and transported and sold in a shop with just in time kind of shipping. And you have to do that because of the vast quantities of actually relatively fresh foods that are available to even people that shop at the lowly Walmart, gasp, these days.
Yeah. That's actually that's a good point too. When I say people would be starving inside a week, actually that's probably not a...
No, they'd be killing each other and eating each other within a week.
Well, within 2 weeks.
But they
within 2 weeks.
Within a month, people would be starving. That's definitely true.
Yeah, because all the frozen food will no longer be available. Well, actually, no. If this plan is implemented, we won't have freezers anymore. So, we're looking at billions of people dying anyway. But whatever.
But think about how much colder the Earth will be. We can freeze our food everywhere.
Not anywhere we'd want to live.
Everywhere.
All right, so let's move on to H, which might actually tie into what we were just talking about. Overhauling.
Go ahead.
Overhauling transportation systems in the United States to eliminate pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector as much as is technologically feasible, including through investment and 1. Zero-emission vehicle infrastructure and manufacturing, 2. Clean, affordable, and accessible public transportation, and 3. High-speed rail. I'm going to let you begin that one because I'm...
Well, okay, so I've heard what this said, and it doesn't sound as bad as the thing that I heard about. So this might be evidence that this is not as much a doctored document as the one that I heard about, because this actually just talks about investing in these areas of the economy, which of course is still destructive, but not nearly as bad as say forbidding the use of emission-using vehicles where necessary. So, again, what they're basically doing is they're choosing winners and losers in the market, which of course creates massive inefficiencies. But they're at least not saying that we will forbid the emission of carbon dioxide of any sort.
They don't have to, because those rules are already in place for the auto industry.
Well, what do you mean? Your cars aren't zero emission
If we jump outside of this document for a minute, by 2050 or something, they don't want any more combustion engines in vehicles, or maybe it was earlier than that now, something like 2035, and those laws are already in place, but they're entirely unattainable if you want to continue driving cars.
Well, there's also no infrastructure in place to prevent people who have classic cars from continuing to drive them, right? So, as long as they don't outlaw the sale of gasoline, there's not much they can do about that other than pass an additional law that then outlaws the existence of this other car, whatever.
Yeah, that's okay. So let's jump back into the document.
So number 2, clean, affordable, accessible public transportation. Of course, this has been tried in practically every major urban city, and it's never profitable. And when I say profitable, I mean it doesn't recoup the costs of producing it. And in addition to that, the problem with things with public transportation is that it's usually only within a certain urban area. And so, for instance, if you need to go from, say, Detroit to, say, Chicago, public transportation isn't going to do that because the point-by-point demand for that kind of trip is pretty low.
Yeah, but that's where number 3 comes in, high-speed rail.
Yeah, high-speed rail High-speed rail works really well if you don't have to go very far with it. right? So Japan has a lot of high-speed rail, but they're an entire country with half the population of the U.S. that lives in a space the size of California, much of which is mountainous and basically uninhabitable. They have a very small number of very heavily populated urban areas, whereas if you think about the per square mile population of the United States, it's a lot lower. There's a lot of more people living in rural areas, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that we have a gigantic highway system that is sprawled all over the United States that you would have to build this rail around. And
well, you would. Well, I mean, yes, you could do that. But I mean, the point is that high-speed rail is extremely wasteful spending-wise, as far as it goes for a highly distributed population like we have in the U.S. It's the same reason why healthcare costs are a little higher. Even if it was a free market, the fact that you have to transport someone 20 miles to get to the hospital instead of 2 miles to get to the hospital makes things more expensive.
Yeah, and not to mention all the resources that would go into building a high-speed rail, and then where are you putting it? Like, how do you determine what are the best places to have high-speed rail between?
The problem that we had before, where the people that get it first are the ones who benefit, is another big problem there, because the first cities that get the high-speed rail are going to benefit the most from it, and then the cities that are supposed to get it last won't get it at all because they'll run out of resources to produce it.
Yes, and finally, how much of this can you get built within the 10-year span that they were talking about?
Yeah, that's the other problem, is that for a 10-year plan, this is extremely
ambitious.
Over-ambitious, yeah.
All right, so moving on.
Yeah, mitigating and managing the long-term adverse health, economic, and other effects of pollution and climate change, including by providing funding for community-defined projects and strategies.
Okay, well, there's that community-defined projects again.
This bullet was already here. Didn't we already see almost exactly this bullet?
Yeah, it's getting very repetitive, actually.
Yeah, let's just move forward.
Yeah.
J. Removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere and reducing pollution by restoring natural ecosystems through proven low-tech solutions that increase soil carbon storage, such as preservation and afforestation. So here they're kind of semi-explicitly saying we're not going to do this via geoengineering. That is, which is so right here they're specifically looking for low-tech solutions when better high-tech solutions exist, and they've said everywhere else as much as is technologically feasible. This is that weird fear of technology that these people exhibit a lot, where they are all in favor of technology for certain things, and then for other things they're like, oh well, we can't do this with technology, that's crazy. When in fact the fact of the matter is that the United States has more forest area than it did in 200 years ago.
And and we have a technology that actually does produce pretty clean energy. I mean, nuclear energy has a waste byproduct, but it produces energy cleanly.
Sure. Greenhouse gas cleanly, sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
But it's scary because you can't see nuclears, so... Yeah.
I mean...
I say that as a scientist.
When the... It took me a second to catch what you meant there.
Yeah.
And now I forgot the point I was going to make.
Sorry.
That's okay. Let's just move on. I mean,
let's move on.
I mean, again, it's getting repetitive. So K.
Yeah.
Are we on K? Yeah,
we're on K.
Restoring and protecting threatened, endangered, and fragile ecosystems through locally appropriate and science-based projects. Science-based projects. Everything else so far has not been based in science. That enhance.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. That enhance biodiversity. Okay, so how many science-based projects are there that enhance biodiversity that you can think of?
Well, I once made one of those vinegar baking soda volcanoes. I think that enhanced biodiversity and supported climate resiliency. So,
and support climate resiliency. Okay, so let's see. Restoring and protecting threatened, endangered, and fragile ecosystems. Okay, so which ecosystems are threatened? Which ones are endangered? Does that not mean the same thing?
No, they actually are different, So what she's using there is she's using the language of the Endangered Species Protection Act.
Yeah.
So threatened is like one step below endangered in severity.
All right, then what about fragile?
So fragile is just
Means both of those in both definitions.
No, fragile means that it could be transitioned to threatened or endangered quickly, and that's a very slippery. Okay. The problem with that is that it's a very slippery slope because you have things like where you have a mountain, and on one side and on both sides of the mountain there is a sparrow, and the two sparrow populations don't really interact with each other because of the mountain, and so if the sparrows on one side of the mountain, like, you know, if some of them die out, then what you can do is you can say, oh, this ecosystem over here is fragile because these sparrows are dying out or whatever, or even migrating away, right? And you call that fragile, and then you basically define your ecosystems as narrowly as possible to make them as fragile as possible.
So,
like, obviously, if something is smaller, it's more easy to change it.
So what you're saying is it's not very highly open to interpretation. That's
the opposite of what I was saying. I
know.
Did I get that wrong? Should we keep going?
I'm just trying to figure out, like, when it says through locally appropriate. I mean, appropriate is just a word that is.
This is a buzzword. Yeah. It's a federal program. The chances of anything.
Appropriate means is what we decide we want to do.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. What locally appropriate probably means, and of course it's not actually written, so I'm just making an educated guess. But what I'm suspecting it means is that people will or local governments will ask for grant money to protect and restore ecosystems, and the federal government will then bankroll that shit.
Well, they'll also be able to determine what they'll let the local governments do.
Yeah, of course.
It's the wonderful world of appropriateness. Science-based projects that enhance biodiversity and support climate resiliency. So okay. So I see what they mean. They mean that they want, I guess, so locally.
They mean privatizing all herds and flocks, right?
No, that's not what they mean at all. That is what we want them to mean. But
that would be science-based, though, because it's clear that if those things are owned by an individual or a group of individuals, that those individuals or groups of individuals will have, you know, a monetary reason to preserve them, right?
No.
So that's science-based, right?
No, well, you're a scientist. No? That's what you think science-based means. But they're using science-based in the someone wrote a book about it sense.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good to know.
Okay, so moving on.
L. Cleaning up existing hazardous waste and abandoned sites to promote economic development and sustainability.
Abandoned sites, what... How does that promote economic development and sustainability?
Do they know what sequestration is?
Yes.
It doesn't look like they do. Because, like, what you do with certain types of waste is you put them in a place, and then you seal them up, and then you abandon that place so that the seal is not disturbed. Like, that's a thing.
So we can solve this problem for them. They can take the existing hazardous waste sites and put them in the abandoned sites, which would actually be redundant.
Uh-huh. And of course they'd probably spill like 30% of the stuff on the way there.
Well, not if they had a private... Oh, okay, yeah, they'd spill 30% of the stuff on the way there.
Yeah, they wouldn't have any accountability.
And you know, of course, we need to clean this up. We need to clean this up not as part of economic development and sustainability, but we clean it up to promote economic development and sustainability.
Yeah.
Which means nothing to me. I don't know about you. All right.
It just sounds like buzzwords to me, honestly.
Yes. I mean, maybe this is the doctored document, and that's why it's got all these buzzwords in it, because...
Could be.
Because we all know that real resolutions aren't filled with buzzwords that are confusing and open to wild interpretation.
You were lying just then, weren't you?
That's open to interpretation.
I see. Moving on.
M, identifying other emission and pollution sources and creating solutions to eliminate them. Okay, that just means picking and choosing winners and losers again.
No, it doesn't even mean that. It's worse than that. It means we're just going to do whatever it is that we deem necessary. This is like a blank check on the blood of American people.
Yeah. Well, that is picking winners and losers.
The solution to this emission and pollution source is gulags. Therefore, we create it, and we eliminate the sources.
N. Promoting the international exchange of technology, expertise, products, funding, and services with the aim of making the United States the international leader on climate action, and to help other countries achieve a Green New Deal. I'm sure that they will be totally interested in that.
Hey, you guys! I know that you need the electricity right now to power your hospitals so that you don't die. But just want you to think about maybe you don't want to do that anymore. Might be worth it.
What are we going to be trading? We're the ones that are actively looking to destroy our industrial production.
No, we're going to expand it.
With what?
Expansion.
We call this fish butter. So, international exchange of funding.
Yeah, that means
that they'll subsidize these stupid projects overseas too.
Yeah, basically. And by stupid projects overseas, you mean, of course, that they send money to vicious dictators in the hopes that the vicious dictators won't keep it for themselves instead of giving it to their people?
In broad terms, yes, I think that's what I mean.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Also, in very specific terms, that might also be what I mean. And services. Well, I mean, if we're all too busy subsistence farming, I don't need to know what services we'll be providing, but okay.
The smug sense of self-satisfaction that you get from living in a country that has the Green Leap Forward, New Deal going on.
I said as I licked my lettuce and stared scornfully at the...
Don't bite the lettuce, though.
Oh, no, you don't bite the lettuce.
Is not sustainable.
You lick the ice-cold lettuce like an ice cream cone. In fact, you stick it on an ice cream cone. But it's not a real ice cream cone.
No. You can't make an ice cream cone anymore. Those contain gluten.
These are ground-up fish bones that I dried.
No. You can't kill fish for food. That's crazy.
No, you can't cook them.
You can't kill them either. That's not sustainable biodiversity.
It is if you farm... Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So where are we?
We are on number 3. A Green New Deal must be developed through transparent and inclusive consultation, collaboration, and partnership with frontline and vulnerable communities, labor unions, worker cooperatives, civil society groups, academia, and businesses.
All right. Okay.
And
so
what will happen for the members of these groups that do not wish to go along with the Green New Deal?
They will no longer be. They will no longer be communities, labor unions, work cooperatives, civil society groups, academic, or businesses.
This is really. What's funny about this is that it's completely collectivist. Like, there's no like individuals or like landowners or like.
Well, there can't be. All of these schemes are set up to put power into the hands of the federal government. Okay, look. The very fact that we still have a Senate tells you everything you need to know about how far gone our country is. What was the point of the Senate when it was created?
Well, the point of the Senate was to give the states a voice in the federal government.
And what did we do with senates that changed the ability of states to have that voice and handed all of that power to the federal government?
Well, we made it so that the senators were chosen by... We're forced... We forced all the states to choose the senators by popular vote of the people.
Yes, and why does that put things into the hands of the federal government rather than giving the states a voice?
Because the states don't choose anything now.
Correct. So everything that we do henceforth is now the federal government trying to grab more power because there is no voice that is telling them to stop. Because the people vote for their senators based on the broad national programs that they wish to see put into place. So everything that the senators are chosen upon is dependent on what they're going to do for the federal government. So the states have long lost their voice, and this is just another example of everything being taken away from local communities and put in a centralized government's hands. That's all this bill is.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about centralization because centralization means that the top men are in charge, you know?
Top men.
You can't have the top men everywhere. The top men can only be in one place.
The top and only men.
The only top men.
And a handful of women, because diversity is
No, it's going to be like 75% women for equality.
Oh yeah, right. 3/4 equality.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, what was that, 3? Did we even talk about it, or
3.
did I just go off on a rant?
No, we talked about it. We talked about how it's just collectivism, and there's no room there for individuals. And
okay. So one thing.
It's just centralization.
One thing. So it must be developed through transparent and inclusive consultation. Transparent to whom? Because it looks like they're only planning on like getting together with bigwigs in these communities, and they'll consult with them, and they'll be transparent to them. But there's
no, it's all right. You won't be able to afford energy to run a computer screen or anything like that. So you don't get to see anything. This just look.
It would be transparent.
You are arguing against the rulership of your betters. How dare you?
I am kind of a monster.
They are your betters. Your betters.
I mean, look at what I just said about the Senate. Clearly, I hate America.
Clearly.
I mean,
you're like a terrorist.
Dogging on the Senate. Look at me. Number 4, to achieve the Green New Deal goals. Now I'm trying to not say Green Leap Forward. And mobilization, a Green New Deal will require the following goals and projects. Okay, so here we go. We're going to find out now what this Green New Deal is going to require.
Yes.
A, providing and leveraging in a way that ensures that the public receives appropriate ownership stakes. Oh, Jesus Christ, here we go. And returns on investment. Okay. Wait, why is this suddenly turning into trying to make it sound like there's some kind of like stock option going on here? This whole thing is fiercely anti-capitalist, and stock markets are not exactly a... Okay, anyway. Returns on investment, adequate capital, including through community grants, public banks...
Oh, I love that. No, hold on. Adequate capital. Then there's just like community grants, public banks, and other public financing. Adequate capital. Capital is not dollar bills.
Well,
dollar bills can be used to purchase capital and to aid in purchasing things that allow you to perform upkeep on capital. But capital is the actual things that you use to make productivity more efficient.
Well, I don't know how you can say that when clearly we're going to have $40 trillion that is going to act as our capital to fund all of this every year.
No. That $40 trillion is not for capital. That $40 trillion is to rebuild every building. I mean, all this other stuff is going to be extra.
Oh yeah. I got ahead of myself
the
there, didn't I?
The 40 trillion a year is just for the buildings. And then buildings are indeed a form of capital, but they're not the be all end.
Well, we're actively destroying that capital by refurbishing all of it at the same time.
Well, yeah, clearly.
Yeah, so we're So okay, so public banks and other financing, technical expertise, supporting policies and other forms of...
Technical expertise.
Should we just cut the video here and loop in our entire segment on the Venus Project and then come back to this?
I just want to say, for technical expertise, maybe they should talk to an economist or two.
Yeah, maybe. They're not going to do that.
No, they're not. Well, they're going to talk to some economists, but none that disagree with anything that they say.
They're not going to talk to any economists about anything actually economic.
No. That's just going to be like, oh yeah, this is totally fine. I'm Paul Krugman.
Supporting policies and other forms of assistance to communities, organizations, federal, state, and local government agencies, and businesses working on the Green New Deal mobilization.
No room for individuals.
Everyone else can take a hike.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
oh, man, no. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Everything within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. Who am I quoting?
Well, I mean, take your pick at this point, Marx.
I'll give you a hint. It starts with an M, and it ends with Mussolini.
You start with Marx, you move on to Lenin.
Well, Marx never specifically said that, right? Marx.
It was the tenets of what he was saying.
No, Marx was a weird. Marx was a weird guy. Marx was like, yeah, if we just give the government more and more power, eventually it'll just vanish. And it's like, really? Is that what you really think?
It's the same result, though. But I mean, by the time it gets around...
Oh, yes. The Soviet Union did eventually collapse, but I mean... At what cost to the people? How many tens of millions of people were killed by the government of the Soviet Union between the mere 70 years that it existed? My goodness.
The point is, by the time it gets to Mussolini, you already have the refined form in which he takes all of this together and makes this one grand, all-encompassing quote that defines the state as everything. And you have the final product that is like the fully remastered and remade version of a movie from 200 years, 500 years, 1,000 years hence.
Well, no, it's even worse than that, because Mussolini was a fascist, and I think that if you said that the things that Alexandria, or as I like to call her, Alex Jones' occasional cortex is talking about are fascistic, she'd be like, no, I'm a democratic socialist, and I'm totally different from a fascist. She'd be wrong, but you know.
If she told me that she was a democratic socialist, I would just hear fascist. I mean, that's how that works. Doesn't she know? Well, of course she doesn't know that. She doesn't even.
No, she doesn't know.
Well, she doesn't know what fascism is.
The only thing that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez knows is probably like how to make a good rum and coke,
or at least a rum and coke.
No, she's probably pretty good at it.
Yeah, I guess she is 28 years old, so she probably was a bartender for a while. I mean,
well, she was a bartender. That was the whole. We've said that several times already.
No, I mean she probably did it for a while though.
Well, yeah, but I mean it doesn't take very long to understand how to make a good highball.
Yeah, I mean it is an art to perfect though. It's
definitely, but I mean it's not like it's a.
I mean I've been making pizzas for years. I don't think I've got the best pizza yet, and I think I can always improve.
You don't even like pizza. You don't. The things you make aren't
I make
pizzas.
my pizza. I've made my pizza for years. I've made my bread and sauce for years. I can't help it. I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah, you can eat more milk.
I eat.
Eventually, it works.
Eat more milk.
Cheese is a form of milk. Yes.
All right. So anyway, just jumping back to that paragraph, providing and leverage. Providing and leveraging. That of course means subsidizing
loans.
And giving money to people.
But it also means loans.
So
loans that are not likely to be paid back. So fun times there.
Public receiving ownership stakes and returns on investments. That basically means that you, the taxpayer, will be on the hook for everything.
Well, what this is basically like hand waving. Like this is them basically saying, yeah, we're going to destroy the economy, but we promise we totally won't destroy the economy.
Oh, and also you'll have a stake in it, so you might make some money off of this. Which, you know, how many times have those government stakes ever really paid out?
Stocks can go down?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure stocks don't go down.
They only go up.
Only up.
And then somewhere in the middle here, where was it? It was,
yeah.
let's see, technical expertise and other forms of assistance to communities, so more loans and subsidies and so forth. It's just, this is just a spending package hidden in a bunch of vague terminology. B, ensuring that the federal government takes into account the complete environmental and social costs and impacts of emissions. Okay.
What about the benefits? What about the benefits?
No, that's
Do we
not
not
the
think
problem.
about the benefits at all?
That's not the problem I have with this paragraph.
Okay.
It's the part that says ensuring the federal government takes into account the complete environmental and social costs and impacts, which, if you could do that in current society right now, you would be able to outpredict everyone else in the market, and you would probably be a trillionaire if you could predict all of those things. Nobody can do that. It's not feasible to do that. It's not
top men.
But it's impossible. It's
top men.
I hate you. Okay, so social costs
and they're going to do this through 1, existing laws, 2, new policies and programs, and 3, ensuring that blah blah communities shall not be adversely affected.
Now-
So the answer is laws, and by the way, we're not racist.
All right, so I don't have quite as concise a one as you, but I definitely want to jump on that number one there that says existing laws. What it means when they say they're going to do that through existing laws is that they're going to open those existing laws to their weird interpretations.
Oh yeah, totally. But that's what the federal government's all about now, anyway.
And
so
the new policies
no
and programs
surprise.
will be about cementing those new interpretations.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And ensuring that frontline and vulnerable communities shall not be adversely affected means that they'll be able to spend the money when and where they want, because they'll be able to call things vulnerable communities. And
Yeah, whenever they want. It's a blank check, yeah.
All of that is a blank check.
Yeah. C. Providing resources, training, and high-quality education, including higher education, to all people in the United States, with a focus on frontline and vulnerable communities, so those communities may be full and equal participants in the Green New Deal mobilization.
Why? You're already telling us you're giving us heaven. Do we need any of that?
I mean...
Providing resources, more subsidizing, training,
yeah,
more
subsidizing. Yeah, it's so it's like one of those things where, like, okay, so right now we have a current supply of like teachers, professors, etc. Right, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna, like, how many times are we gonna multiply the number of people that they have to teach, and then, like, we're gonna make sure that it's high quality while also increasing supply by increasing demand by a factor of 10 and keeping supply about the same. Because, I mean, how many people are gonna, like, what does this have to do with anything? Like most of what we've been hearing so far is that they're gonna, like, get rid of this or change this to that or something, and these are all, like, construction jobs. Like, if you're gonna rebuild every building in the United States in 10 years, you don't need any academics. You need a lot of construction workers.
Well, that was the point that I wanted to get on the most too, and you've already done it. But I mean specifically where it says including higher education, it says to all people of the United States. Not everyone in the United States needs the higher education, like you've said, and it's insane to think that you would spend years and years getting an education, but then, like, all the jobs are going to be fixing buildings and digging canals.
Well, half of them will be fixing the buildings, and half of them will be tearing them down.
I mean, if you have that higher education, why would you want to do the construction? The only reason you would want to is because that's the only thing that's paying money, because that's the entire economy now.
Well, the hidden answer is that by taking over this much of the economy, they're going to need lackeys in higher education to propagandize people more. And therefore, right, like, as bad as public schooling is, in 13 years they can only really smash the entrepreneurial instinct out of, say, 95% of people. But if they have another 4 to 6 years to do that for everybody else, they can maybe get that to 97 or 98%.
Yeah, that seems to be more what's at play here than anything else. Because no matter how I look at it, the higher education for all people it makes very little sense. There's just first off, how are you getting this education? Where are you finding the time to spend all this time getting educated?
Well, it's all the time that we're not, like, rebuilding every building in the United States in the next 10 years, or increasing or helping farmers.
Well, that's what I wanted to get at is like they're talking about sustaining families of farmers, but if all of the children in these families are going off to get higher education, then how those two are completely counterintuitive to each other.
Yeah, they. I mean, they never said that the Green New Deal was going to make sense, only that we were going to be forced to enforce it.
Yes. That's why we're here, I guess. Okay, so with a focus on frontline and vulnerable communities.
Yeah, this is just the whole, we're going to make sure that people... We're not racist, totally.
So those communities may be full and equal participants. It's... In the Green New Deal mobilization, okay, I didn't actually see it said mobilization there. They're going to force people to do this, is what that means.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, you can't do this without force.
Yes. I mean, full and equal participants means that everyone is going to have to participate. How much longer after something like this gets passed do you think it would be before they said, oh, everyone has to do mandatory 2 years service for...
Oh, they've already been trying to push that shit.
Yeah, I know. But I mean,
yeah,
like the day after this got passed, they denounced that.
Yeah, of course.
D. Making public investments in the research and development of new, clean, and renewable energy technologies and industries. How many times?
Yeah, we've already covered this.
How many times are they going to repeat
that?
It's
the fourth time they've talked about it. E. Directing investments to spur economic development, deepen and diversify industry and local and regional economies, and build wealth and community ownership while prioritizing high-quality job creation and economic, social, and...
they're repeating themselves again.
Away from, they're like, we're going to diversify industry and local and regional economies, but what if your economy is just to, like... I mean, this is the government saying, oh, we know how the economy should work better than people voluntarily trading between each other. So we're just going to make it so that this goes the way that we expect it to.
If you live in an area like Idaho and where everyone's growing potatoes, the government's just going to come sweeping in and be like,
oh, no, we're going to have to get rid of all these potato farms and we're going to have to replace them with...
got to grow some oranges here, and also we...
No, they can't even be farms because we got to diversify the industry. So we're going to turn them into like...
it's a new Silicon Valley right in the midst of...
Yeah, computer chip foundries, right? And we're going to create a bunch of toxic waste that we're going to dump on the potatoes, and then we're going to have a famine.
Hooray!
It'll be hilarious.
I mean, it'll be funny to the people that aren't part of the famine, maybe, but...
Everyone will get to participate equally in the famine.
Yes, so not funny to anyone, really.
Including frontline and vulnerable communities.
3/4, in fact.
Yes, 3/4. They get 3/4 of the famine. F. Ensuring the use of democratic and participatory processes that are inclusive of and led by blah blah communities and workers to plan, implement, and administer the Green Deal mobilization at the local level.
Okay, so that's just talking. This is fascism right here. That the F for fascism.
This is affirmative action fascism. But yes,
it's letter F. Could it be better? This is talking about making everyone be step to the...
I just imagined like a Sesame Street skit. F is for fascism. And then they just start like, showing pictures of people goose stepping and everything. It's like, well, that episode of Sesame Street went downhill fast.
How did this get on the air? Oh, it's PBS.
Oh man!
But, I mean, just look at the wording for that.
I know it's scary, and no one realizes how scary.
Yeah, the use of a democratic and participatory process, which when it says participatory, it means making you participate.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. That's. I mean, I don't want to look at it anymore. Let's go on to G. Yeah. Ensuring that the Green New Deal mobilization creates high-quality union jobs that pay... Oh,
they have to be union jobs?
I guess so. I mean, if they're already high-quality, I don't know if they would have to be union, but I guess they can only be union. That pay prevailing wages, hires local workers, offers training and advanced opportunities, and guarantees wage and benefit parity for workers affected by the transition. Now, I'm just gonna go ahead and point out that they said... it offers training. Why would you need the training if you've already got a higher education?
Well, because the higher education is going to be for propagandizing.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought there was a contradiction there, but you have proved me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to go through school for...
See, my problem is I'm taking them at face value
years now. Yes, never take socialists at face value. They want you dead.
All right, so anything else to look at there? Creating high-quality union jobs, prevailing wage.
Well, I like the fact that they say that these jobs pay prevailing wages, when the purpose of a union is to make it so that your job doesn't pay prevailing wages, but rather pays higher than prevailing wages by artificially reducing. Oh, that's interesting, because they're going to create high-quality union jobs, but the purpose of a union is to restrict supply of a certain type of labor, so there's already a contradiction in there.
It also says hire local workers, which, if everyone's equally participating, especially the vulnerable, then wouldn't you want to diversify that a bit more?
Well, I mean, you can't... I mean, that's a meaningless phrase. Like, hires local workers means that you hire people that live there.
Or move there to work there.
or move there to work there. Yeah, so like,
But then again,
who's not
if you're looking at Part F, then maybe they're just not going to let people move to other places. Maybe they're...
Well, no, they can't let people move around freely. It's a fascist state, so there has to be internal passports.
So it'll actually be pretty easy for them to hire local workers because nobody's allowed to be anywhere else.
Move around, yeah, exactly.
They're too busy being mandatorily participatory in the democratic process that is inclusive of yada yada.
Yeah. Frontline and vulnerable.
And guarantees wage and benefit parity for workers affected by the transition. Everyone according to their...
Oh, man.
All right. H. Guaranteeing a job
H.
with a family-sustaining wage, adequate family...
Do they not realize that not everyone has a family to sustain?
Yes and no.
I mean,
and by yes and no, I mean they don't care.
No,
it's flowery language that makes it sound nice.
Yeah, that's true.
Guaranteeing a job with a family-sustaining wage, adequate family and medical leave, paid vacation. How is anyone going to be going on leave and taking paid vacations when we have to rebuild every building in the United States?
Well, it's like this. I don't know.
Oh, and retirement security. How nice. How quaint. We're all going to have...
Yeah, retirement security. Yeah, I hear there's this place called Sugar Candy Mountain. Everybody who's old goes there, and they are happy forever and ever.
I've got my ticket. Do you have yours?
My ticket's golden, but not real gold. That's illegal.
I. Strengthening and protecting the right of all workers to organize, unionize, and collectively bargain, free of coercion, intimidation, and harassment. So what that means, in essence, is that everyone is...
Hold on a minute. They do realize what unions do to scabs, right?
Yes, they do. They know exactly what they do.
Those things are coercion, intimidation, and harassment.
Yes.
Right? They realize that, right? That when...
Yeah, no, what this paragraph actually means is that all workers are going to organize, unionize, and collectively bargain under the threat of coercion, intimidation, and harassment.
Oh, I see. That makes more sense. That must be one of those typos that they're going to get rid of when they draft through this.
Well, no, it's not a typo. They need to put it there as a reminder, but they also need to make it not sound like a bad thing. Like these aren't the brightest people, so they don't want to forget that they want to do this. But that's all it could possibly mean, because if you're free of coercion, intimidation, and harassment, then you might not unionize. And, well, they said in the last paragraph that, strong unions.
Oh, and by the way, I just want to mention that I do hate the term scab for workers who strike break. That's a terrible, awful term, and I only used it because that's the prevailing word to describe it.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm just saying that for the audience, if there is any.
I would lean more towards a slightly less offensive word like hero.
Well, I mean, clearly they're heroes. That if Walter Block says it, it must be true.
I like that. I'm going to run with that.
Part J. Strengthening and enforcing labor, workplace health and safety, anti-discrimination, and wage and hour standards across all employers, industries, and sectors.
But some more than others, which has been like this entire thing so far.
Frontline and vulnerable communities. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a ritualistic phrase, like you like every time you say something, you like cross yourself. It's like frontline and vulnerable
it's
communities.
Like in Hot Fuzz when they go for the greater good.
The greater good. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what it is.
All right. K. Enacting and enforcing trade rules, procurement standards, and border adjustments with strong labor and environmental protection. What do they mean? Who's enacting them?
Well, the government, the federal government.
But... Okay. So, to stop the to stop the transfer of jobs and pollution overseas. They just talked about enacting and enforcing trade rules, and then they said stopping trade.
The transfer of jobs, yeah. And also pollution, which is, do they know how landfills work? Like you can buy landfill space in other countries, and they'll take your stuff and put it in a landfill for you. Like that's
Rudy.
that's a thing.
When it comes to economics, these people don't know how.
Like that's a service though, right? Like that's how like small countries can have a higher standard of living by taking their garbage and they can't burn it because that produces a lot of pollution, so they transfer it to some place that has relatively low land values.
You're talking about people that don't know how buying a package of Frankfurters works.
Oh. Doesn't the government just provide Frankfurters to everyone?
Well, that's what they want to say they're going to do, so we'll see. To grow domestic manufacturing in the United States.
Let it be written, therefore let it be done.
How are you?
They don't know. It's just the law.
Everyone's going to be doing construction work. There isn't going to be any manufacturing. There's going to be like one guy building
there's
shovels.
Going to be manufacturing buildings and the things that make buildings. So yeah.
Plus, we have to move like 5% of all of these buildings to various different areas to diversify the industry of the area.
Well, the other thing is that we already actually had a bullet point that was basically this, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna grow manufacturing while also getting rid of energy sources." And it's like, hold on a minute, and they're like, "No, it's cool." And then they Nazi salute.
Big birds with them.
Yeah.
All right, so L, ensuring that public lands, waters, and oceans are protected and that eminent domain is not abused. On the ocean? What?
Yeah.
Okay, eminent domain exists solely to be abused.
That's kind of the purpose of it, yeah.
Public lands are already protected in really weird ways. Waters are protected in ways that they really shouldn't be. And I'm not sure if they're talking about use protection or just like pollution protection here.
They're probably talking about pollution protection,
which ultimately means use protection. But
yeah, of course.
But like,
it means use restriction.
From what? I mean, they've already taken over the entire economy and industry with this resolution. So what would they have to protect it from at that point?
They don't realize that it would require them to take over the entire industry and economy to do this. They're just like, we're just going to write a law. It's just like that's how law works, right? You just write your wishes on a piece of paper, and then like then like the bill sits on the steps of Congress, and like someone signs it, and then like it sings a song, and then everything's magical and wonderful and done.
Yes, that is how government works.
Let's move forward. M. Obtaining the free, prior, and informed consent of Indigenous people for all decisions that affect Indigenous people and their traditional territories, honoring all treaties and agreements with Indigenous people, and protecting and enforcing the sovereignty and land rights of Indigenous people.
This is exactly what you cannot do if you want to do everything else in this bill.
Well, no, we'll just have... We'll take the Indigenous people and the land that they have now. We'll call it
I've never
theirs.
seen a kangaroo treaty before.
well, no, Indigenous people, so like American Indians and such.
Yeah, no, they're. It would be impossible for them to have a choice in this, for this bill to exist. Like one or the other has to go, this bill or this part of this bill.
Well, no, you just don't force them to rebuild all their buildings in 10 years. We'll do that in 20. It's really funny because like if this Green New Deal thing takes hold in America, like and like it's specifically prevented from
touching the Native American land,
from touching like Indian reservations. Like the Indian reservations will go from like the place that you don't really want to live to a place that you absolutely want to live. Like I'll just get a room in a penthouse of one of their casinos and just live there.
Yeah, no,
oh, thank God, I'm safe.
Look, I'm a Seneca Indian. I can totally just find. I'm sure that there's some Seneca tribe land near or in Michigan somewhere that I can be a part of. I have no idea where their land is, but yeah, I will gladly join the reservation. Because I don't want to be shot in the back of the head.
Yeah. Well, they'll do that eventually.
Yeah, eventually. They're socialists. They can't allow people to exist, nothing outside the state. So basically, once they have all the power of the country of the United States in their grubby little hands, then they just slaughter all the Native Americans and take that land too.
Well, all the ones who aren't compliant, obviously.
Well, obviously, yeah. But I mean, that's what non-compliant people are for. Slaughtering.
Right. Shooting in the back of the head. Let's move forward. We're almost done. N. Ensuring a commercial environment where every business person is free from unfair competition and domination by domestic or international monopolies.
So, ensuring a non-commercial environment.
Oh my god. Like, they realize that
competition is the commercial environment.
No, it's worse. No, the thing I'm worried about is not worried about, but the thing I'm latching onto is the fact that they're trying to rebuild every building in the United States within 10 years. Are they going to do that by writing 100 million individual contracts for every individual building, or are they going to like give those contracts to 2 or 3 very large companies? Da 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 da. Yeah, it's the Monopoly one.
It's my Monopoly
what is a monopoly? Part O.
We kick forward, you kick back.
Yay! But if you kick back, you get shot in the back of the head.
No. The kickbacks are what you want.
Oh, I see. It's a wordplay.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh.
Part O. Providing all people in the United States with 1. High-quality health care. 2. Affordable, safe, and adequate housing. 3. Economic security. And 4. Access to clean water, clean air, healthy and affordable food, and nature.
Did we already do this one, too?
Yeah, this was already stated. Wow, that went out
Wait.
with a whimper and not a bang.
It's
Yeah,
just
we're
done?
done. So I think this is the real one, because it doesn't say that they're getting rid of air travel and shit like that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Like, this might actually be
it's entirely
real.
possible that this is, still not a fully updated one. But I mean, what would they change?
That's true. Well, they would... I mean, they could change it to be like, the United States will operate under laissez-faire capitalism, which
No, what
be
would they
best...
change? What would they change?
Oh, I thought you said could. I thought you said what could they change? Well, they could come up with a longer phrase for vulnerable and frontline communities. They need to add like 7 or 8 more words to that.
All right. I guess let me just ask your final thoughts.
Final thoughts are that it's not nearly as openly hostile to free enterprise as I thought it was going to be, while still being extremely hostile to free enterprise.
Okay.
Like at least they're not like saying like we're going to like not fly to Hawaii anymore because we're going to put high speed rail out there. Like, like that's what I heard. That's what I heard someone talking about. They're like, "Oh yeah, it says get rid of air travel or make it so that air travel is no longer necessary."
The head shooting would have to start
rail.
so much sooner because nobody would let them live that down. That was an episode of BoJack Horseman where they built a bridge to Hawaii. It was specifically a joke about putting riders in bills.
Yeah. It's all right. We have the technology. No, we don't.
We don't even have the resources. The ocean is very deep.
It's not just it's very deep, it's that it also moves around a lot, and like there's a lot of problems with that.
Is it possible to build a floating rail? I don't think so.
It is, but again, we're talking about like cost
world's
versus
largest water wings.
Well, no, I could imagine like some kind of maglev system or something, or maybe I mean like if you made the train itself out of like giant balloons and somehow ventilated them, right? You could just drag them across the ocean. Like that's doable.
We're gonna magic school bus this. Galaxy Express 999.
I don't know. I'm pleasantly surprised.
In a shocked and horrified kind of way, I take it. But
well, it's like this is just a wish list, and it doesn't actually like explicitly say that this group is going to have to die, which is kind of what I was expecting.
yeah, it's hinted at a lot, but not.
Well, yeah, no, I mean,
and the worst part is
say that. It's just that they don't say it.
Sometimes I wonder if they even notice, if like the people that are actually sitting down and writing it realize that.
No, I've said this before to you, but they're collectivists.
Yeah, they realize.
Yeah, they know.
All right, well, so those are your final thoughts.
Any final thoughts from you?
This sucks.
Oh yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. It's incoherent at best. And like destructive of the entire economy at worst.
That was a gamble. That was a big gamble I made. I said this sucks in the hopes that in the hopes that you would catch on to what I was doing and that would be the final word in this video, but now it's not because I'm leaving this in.
Well, what did you expect me to say?
I expected you to pause long enough so that I could cut out whatever you said.
Well, we could always just cut it off, right? Well,